Hey guys, my name is Diego. Thank you for visiting my channel again. Today I'm going to be talking about, should you do a master's degree? Should you? Is there any point to doing a master's degree? I want to be sharing some tips, going through some questions that you may want to ask yourself when wondering if you should do a master's degree or not. So, firstly, I think that when you're deciding on whether or not to do a master's degree, you have to ask yourself several important questions. You need to ask yourself, why should you actually do your master's degree? Is it because you need it to enhance your career? Is it because you enjoy the subject and you just want to advance your knowledge? Or is it because it just sounds fancy? These are all key questions that you should be asking yourself. And it's important to do so because as you ask yourself these questions, you'll be able to figure out what your reasoning behind everything is. And then you'll also be able to look at the pros and the cons of actually going through with doing a master's degree, and if it's actually necessary according to your reasoning behind it. So if you need it to advance your career, then perhaps you need to look into the particulars of the course. Does it complement and does it build on your previous degree? So for example, if you become a psychologist in the future, maybe a good choice would be choosing a master's degree which should build on that. So for example, experimental psychology. Then there are also other options as well. You can pick courses which perhaps they're not necessarily the traditional path. Perhaps you want to do a science degree, like for example myself, I did a biological sciences degree and then I went on to do a master's in health policy, which is not related. It has no science base. It has some scientific principles but not related to biological sciences. It's all about policy, economics related to healthcare. And for me, it was just because I wanted to do this course out of interest and because I knew it would come in handy for my future plans, which I'll be discussing in other videos that I'll be doing. So you need to really see, does this master's degree advance your career? And if so, how? And if it does, then you need to be looking for a master's degree which complements what you learn in your undergrad degree and which you know will come in handy. If that's not the case, I mean, if you have a well thought out plan and you can see that even though your postgrad course is different, if you can see that it will complement or at some point it will come in handy, then that's really a decision for you to take. And that's a decision I took. And I can see that it's working well. So again, it depends on your circumstance, but these are questions that you should be asking yourself. So secondly, I mean, if it's out of pure interest and just because of love for the subject, then maybe you could consider other options for you to advance your knowledge, specifically because master's degrees aren't cheap. If we're talking in the UK specifically, there are going to be fees involved and most will be above £5,000. On average, that's what it tends to be, above £5,000. Then it does differ according to if you're doing it on part-time or full-time basis, but that tends to be the price. So really, if it's just out of knowledge, out of just love for the knowledge, maybe there are other options, smaller courses, short courses you can take, maybe even teaching yourself. If it's not necessary for your career, then those are things you need to be considering. Is it really worth me going through the whole application process, then going through the whole master's course, then doing your whole dissertation? There's so much things you need to consider. And it's going to be quite burdensome on you. And if it's not really what you want, if it's not really working towards something, you don't really need it. When it gets tough and when you're having to balance work, your studies, if you're just doing it out of pure just love for the subject or just because you want to learn about something, there might be days where you're going to be questioning yourself and maybe you even want to consider dropping out. And finally, if you think you want to do a master's course just because it sounds fancy, I think you really need to be thinking about properly, because that shouldn't be what should be motivating you to do that. Maybe it might be the initial thing that's sort of attracting you to it, but you need to dig in deeper and look at why is it you want to do it? What are the benefits? What are the disadvantages? How will this contribute to my career prospects or to what I want to work in the future? And just again touching back on the fact of the fees, fees involved, time involved, is it really worth just doing it because it sounds fancy? Stuff like this, these are things you need to be considering, and these are real things. So even if you don't want and you want to disregard them at this point just because of the idea that it might sound nice for you to go to postgrad school, eventually you're going to be hit with this and you're going to be beating yourself up because you never really thought about it, or you just decided to push it aside. So finally, I just want to also talk about the benefits and the disadvantages as well of going to graduate school, doing a master's course. There are many advantages and there are some disadvantages. I think this might be more according to my personal experience, and some other things as well, which I've heard from other people. So the disadvantages. The disadvantage of the things you need to consider is, again, time. The time that it takes for you to do this, and also the implications of you taking your time to then go to study for maybe a year extra or 2 more years. What can it mean? So if you just graduated, or you're just about to graduate from your first degree, most of your friends will probably already be in full-time jobs, earning good salaries, depending on their jobs, of course, and you'll probably be stuck still at university. If your reasoning is right behind you wanting to do it, then it shouldn't really affect you. But if you're not too sure, and again your reasoning behind it is sort of weak, then it will affect you, and it will become you might become a bit resentful to your course and to your decisions as well, and it's just not going to be a positive experience. You're not going to get the best out of what you're aiming to do and what the whole purpose of the course is. And so it's just realizing the cost of doing it, cost in terms of price, the fee that you have to pay for, more debt in the UK, unfortunately, and also just the fact that you're not going to be able to work full-time. If you're doing it full-time, definitely not. You're just going to be able to, you're going to continue living that student life, which after 3 years is not appealing and it's not what you want. Another thing that you have to consider is there's no guarantee of value for money, and speaking to lots of people that I know who are on master's courses, there is a certain view that going into postgrad school, their expectations was much higher, and they thought that sort of blow them away, that things would be completely different. And they've actually said that even though they're enjoying it, it's not as good as they thought it would be. And that's something you need to consider. There's no guarantee that you're going to get value for money. Even if the university is top university, the course seems very appealing, there's so many things you have to consider: the layout, the structure, the teaching style, so many little things that unfortunately, even if you're reading on their website, the prospectus, everything, until you actually get there, you're not going to realize. And another thing also that you need to consider is the fact that you're going to be at university maybe for 2 more years, for 1 more year, but you also have to consider the workload, dissertation, exams if you get exams. I don't get exams, so I'm alright, but still, there's going to be exams, there's going to be dissertation, there's going to be essays, there's going to be so many things that you need to consider. Is it really worth it? And if it is, then go for it. There's so many things that you can get out of it, so many positive things. If you need it to advance your career, it will advance your career. You'll be able to learn and build on certain skills you had in your undergrad, which will put you in good stead for when you go to your professional workplace. Employers will consider this and they will see it as something valuable. Postgrad school, getting a degree in general isn't easy, and going on to get a master's degree takes a lot of resilience. So it will advance your career if you're picking as well something where you can see that it builds on. Because if it's not related, then maybe, I personally wouldn't do it, because I think that if it's not related, if it has no link at all, and it's not something that is really what you're aiming to do in the future, it might seem a bit pointless. Your future employers might even question your decision making on why you've decided to undertake further study just for the sake of it. And you also get the opportunity to work on exciting research projects, and that really again depends on your course, but you can do that, and I think it's a good experience. You learn what it is to conduct your own research, to conduct research which is of a higher level, and to get involved in exciting projects which in the professional workplace sometimes can be a bit more difficult. And another advantage that I see is, which for me, I can say this is my personal experience has led me to come to this conclusion that this is an advantage, is the fact that you get to meet people, different backgrounds from different countries at different points in their career, and it's so interesting to get to meet so many people. You make good links, good connections, networking opportunities, and it just puts everything in perspective. When you're in a group, when you're on a course where there's a group of people who are working towards the same cause but coming from different backgrounds, it just enables you to widen your perspective on what you're doing and why you're doing it. So it really is an enriching experience. for some people, they want to be at university again, or they want to do more uni work. So if that's what, you know, floats your boat, then you'll enjoy it, because you're going to be more time at university. So yeah, those would be the advantages, those are the disadvantages. And like I said, I wanted to end on a positive note, presenting you the advantages, but also giving you some insight into the reality, the questions you should be asking yourself, and also the disadvantages. You know, there's so many things that you need to consider, but if you want to do it, it's a good choice, and just go for it. So yes, this is vlog number 2. I hope you enjoyed it. Bit by bit, I'm starting to get a bit more confident with this, and I'll be doing more topics, related topics, and maybe non-related topics, fitness, traveling. Right now the theme is definitely sort of educational, university type things. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Share, like, comment, subscribe, all of that. Follow my Instagram at IamDiegoIG. There'll be links below, and I just hope you enjoy this, and keep it locked. There's much more coming.